Hello students, welcome back. This is Dr. Mercado speaking. Welcome to another lecture over Chapter 6, which deals with inventories. Now in this particular lecture, we are going to be covering problem 6-5A. You should be seeing something similar to this on your exam, so please pay close attention to it. Now this is a long problem, okay? It's not difficult, it could be a little bit confusing, but it is time consuming, okay? So do not get frustrated, okay? So, in this particular chapter, we're going to continue covering the different costing methods. We're going to cover Fifo, Lifo, and the weighted average method. And as we have already learned from the material covered in the textbook, the three methods normally yield different amounts for the cost of goods sold, the gross profit, net income, and our ending inventory. Depending on the method that we use is the amounts calculated for all of these four factors, okay? Now, it is important that we know the effects of the changes in prices, if the prices increase or decrease, how that affects the FIFO and LIFO cost methods, okay? In your textbook, you have Exhibit 9, which basically outlines in a very easy to understand format what happens if we have increasing cost or decreasing cost, okay? So, for our cost of goods sold, that is how much we pay for the goods that we are reselling, okay? If we have increasing cost, the highest amount would be reported under the Lifo method, when the lowest amount would be under Fifo. Okay, so if we have increasing costs, Lifo will yield the highest amount of cost of goods sold, while Fifo would yield the lowest amount of cost of goods sold. Okay, conversely, if we have decreasing costs, Fifo will yield the highest amount of cost of goods sold, while Lifo would yield the lowest amount of cost of goods sold. Okay. For our gross profit, okay, sometimes we want, not to report a high amount of profit. If we have increasing cost, FIFO would yield the highest amount of gross profit, while LIFO would yield the lowest amount of gross profit. Well, when we have decreasing costs, LIFO would yield the highest amount, while lowest would yield a lower amount of our gross profit. Okay, when dealing with net income, when we have increasing prices or increasing costs, LIFO will yield the highest amount of net income, while LIFO would yield the lowest. In cases of decreasing prices or costs, LIFO will yield the highest amount of net income, while FIFO will yield the lowest amount. Our ending inventory valuation, when we have increasing cost, FIFO will yield the highest inventory amount, while LIFO would yield the lowest. When we have decreasing cost, LIFO will yield the highest amount of ending inventory, while FIFO will yield the lowest. Okay, and this is part of the problem that we're going to be going over in next. Okay, it's not only calculating the inventories, but identifying specific information. What happens when our prices increase or when our prices decrease? What is the organization trying to achieve? Okay, and this is going to be very useful in analyzing and understanding that information. Okay, so let's jump over to the problem. Like I said, it's a long problem. Okay, I've set it up in Excel, that way it's easier to understand, but you can do it on paper, Excel, whatever works for you. Okay, so it says Dymac Appliances uses the periodic inventory system. Details regarding the inventory of appliances at January the 1st, purchase invoices during the next 12 months, and the inventory count at the December 31st are as follows. Okay, and then we are provided with 2, 4, 6, 7 different model numbers. So we have part numbers or model numbers of appliances. I don't know. I guess they're model numbers of the different appliances that we're selling. Then we've got the beginning inventory. We had 3 purchases during the year. And then we have our ending inventory amount. Okay, so our ending inventory is as of December 31st. That is how many units of that particular model we have in stock. Okay, so it says determine the cost of the inventory on December the 31st by using the first in, first out method. Present data in a columnar form using the following headings. So we're going to use model, quantity, unit cost, and total cost. We're going to do the same thing for FIFO, for LIFO, for weighted average cost. Those are number 1 through 3. Okay, so we're going to have to figure out the cost of our inventory valued using the 3 different valuation methods. LIFO, FIFO, and weighted average. Okay, and then once we have all of our numbers, we're going to discuss which method would be preferred for income tax purposes in periods of rising prices and declining prices. Okay, so let's start with FIFO. First in, first out. Okay, just a special note, I like to have this handy at all times. It just makes it easier for me to understand. When we are dealing with FIFO, we sell the oldest and we keep the newest. Okay. When we have LIFO, we sell the newest and we keep the oldest. Okay. And for requirement number 1, we are doing FIFO, which means we're always going to sell the oldest and we're going to keep the newest. Okay. So now we're going to start analyzing by model number. Okay. Every model number. Okay. So we're going to start off with model A10. Okay. There we go. Okay, now for model A10, it says that we have 6 in our ending inventory. Okay, we have 6 in our ending inventory, and if we look at FIFO, we keep the newest. So we need to figure out, first of all, which of these columns is my newest information. So inventory, January the 1st, that's your oldest, and then that's the first purchase, second purchase, third purchase. Third purchase is the newest merchandise that you have received. So the third is the newest. The beginning inventory is the oldest. Okay. So for FIFO, we are keeping the newest. The newest would be from 3 to 2 to 1. We're working backwards. Okay. So for model A10, it says that we have 6 units available. So let's look at the third. At the third, we only purchased 4 units at $76. Okay, 4 at 76. Okay, that's going to give me 304. Now it says that we have 6 remaining, so that means I've got those 4 from that third purchase. That means I need to get an additional 2 from that second purchase. Remember, we need to come up with 6. So we have 2 at $70. Okay. So now I've got 6 units. And this is the value for my 6 units, 304 and 140. Okay, both of these are for A10. Okay, now we're going to do B15. Okay, for B15, it says we have 8 units remaining. 8. Remember, we are keeping the newest units, so we are going to work backwards. So I have 8 units, and I know they're my newest units. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab 6 from that third purchase at 184. Okay. And now I need 2, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab 2 from that second purchase at $170. Okay. Okay. So we're going to multiply them and we're going to get the number. So then that'll give me 1,104 for those 6 units and 340 for those 2 units. That together combined is going to give me my 8 units right here. So this is our ending inventory. This is what we are counting. Okay. Okay, this is what we are trying to figure out. What is the value of that inventory right there? Okay. So for B15, we had 8 remaining, 6 from my third purchase, 2 from my second purchase. Okay. Now let's look at E60. Okay. For E60, we have 5 units remaining. Okay. On our last purchase, which is our third purchase, we bought 9. So now we know we kept 5 of those 9. So I'm going to have 5 units at $70 a piece. Let's see what we get. We get $350. Okay, very good. So for that one, we only have 1 transaction because we had purchased more than enough on that third purchase to cover those 5 that we had left over. Okay. For G83, we have 9 units remaining. So we're going to always keep our newest. So I had purchased on my third transaction 10 at $259. I have 9 remaining. So I'm going to have 9 units at $259. That's going to give me 2,331. Okay. So that's G83. Now we're going to go to J34. Okay. For J34, I've got 15 units remaining. Remember, we always keep the newest. So we have 15 remaining on that third purchase. We had purchased 16, so we currently have 15 out of the 16 remaining. So I'm going to have 15 remaining at $270. That's going to give me 4,050. Okay, so that's J34. Then we have M90. Okay, so M90, we have 5 units remaining. So we're going to work backwards from our newest units. Those are the ones we're keeping. So my third purchase was my newest. So I'm going to have 3 at 130. But it says that I have 5 remaining. So that means I have 3 from my third purchase, and I'm going to have 2 from my second purchase. Okay, 2 from a purchase of 128. Okay, that's going to give me 390 and 256. Okay, last but not least, we have Q70. Okay, for Q70, we have 8 units remaining. Okay, so I know I'm going to keep my newest. So now I know that from those 8, 7 of those came from my third transaction. So I'm going to have 7 at 180. That's going to give me 1,260. Okay. Now it says here that we have 8. I've already accounted for 7, so that means I'm going to get 1 from my second purchase. Okay. 1 from your second purchase of 175. That'll give me 175. Okay. So now I can get a total of all of my models. Okay. Okay, so my ending inventory using the Fifo method for all of my models is $10,700. $10,700. Okay, so the key here is understanding, okay, how many units do I have left? That's your ending inventory count. Okay, which method am I using? Fifo or Lifo? In this case, we're using Fifo. We sell the oldest, we keep the newest. So whatever your ending inventory is should always be the newest amount. You always deplete the newest and then you go backwards to the prior one. Okay. In this case, we have purchases 1, 2, and 3. Your newest will always be 3, followed by 2, and then 1. Okay. Now, using the Lifo method, it's the exact same thing, but now under Lifo, I sell my newest and I keep my oldest. Okay, so now I'm going to keep my oldest inventory. Okay, so for Lifo, okay, we are keeping our oldest. For model number 810, we have 6 units remaining. Now, for Lifo, we're going to keep the oldest. The oldest will be from January the 1st through the first purchase, second purchase, and third purchase. Okay, so my oldest will be January the 1st, our beginning inventory. Now, the problem says that we have 6 units. We did not have any beginning inventory. And then my first purchase was 4. Okay, so remember, we're keeping the oldest. So we're going to go in order now from beginning inventory, first, second, and third purchase. Okay. So, because I am keeping the oldest, the oldest is from that first purchase. We have 4 at 64. That's going to give me $256. But remember, we have 6 remaining. So that means I have already depleted the first. Now I'm going to go to the second. On the second, I had 4 at 70. I only need 2 more to complete my 6. Because remember, we are looking at 6 right here. So we have 2 at 70. Wait, that. Okay, that gives me 140. Okay, so that is the total for my model A10. Now for B15, okay, we have 8 remaining, okay? Our ending inventory is 8, and remember, we are keeping the oldest. In this case, my oldest is my beginning inventory as of January the 1st, okay? So I've got 8 units at 176, okay? We're doing B15, yes. So we're doing 8 units at 176 right here. That would give me 1408, okay, for B15. So we have 8 units remaining. Which units do we have? We have the oldest. Which are my oldest? Those 8 units at 176, okay? E60, okay? We have 5 units of E60. And remember, according to this, we sell the newest and we keep the oldest, okay? So we have 5 units and I'm keeping my oldest. I'm going to start off with my 3 units at $75. Okay, we've got 3, but the problem says that we have 5 remaining. So we have 3 at 75, and then we're going to have 2 at 65. Okay. So we're going to multiply. So all you have to do is locate, okay, figure out which ones do I keep. Do I keep the new or do I keep the old? Okay, and then based on that, you look at, the two opposite sides. Okay, am I keeping the oldest or am I keeping the newest? When we're doing LIFO, we keep the oldest. So you will always start from over here. Okay. So that's E60, G83. Okay. G83, we have 9 units remaining. And remember, we are keeping the oldest. Okay. My oldest starts over here at our beginning inventory. 7 at 242. Okay. But remember, we have for G83, we have 9 remaining. So I have 7 already accounted for. I need 2 from that first purchase. Okay. So that's going to give me $16.94 and $500. So that's G83. Now we have J34. Okay. So J34 has 15 units at the end. That's our ending inventory. 15 units, and we are keeping the oldest, remember? So I need 15 units from the oldest to the newest. So my oldest ones are 12 at 240. That means I need 3 more. And then those 3 are going to be looking at 3 at 246. Okay. So that's going to give me 2880 and 738. Very good. So that's J34. Then we have M90. Okay. M90, we have 5 units remaining. And remember, we are keeping the oldest units. So I know I'm going to have 2 at 108. I am going to have 2 at 110. Okay. And we have 5 that we need. So that means we need 1 from 128. So you have to grab from the next tier until you make up the amount that you are needing for your ending inventory. So for M90, I have 5 units at the end of our inventory. 5 units. What comprises those 5 units? Well, we are using LIFO, which means we keep the oldest units. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to keep those 2 at 108, 2 at 110, and then 1 at 128. That will complete the 5 units we have in our inventory. Okay. And then last but not least, we've got Q70. For Q70, we have 8 units remaining. We've got, and remember, we are keeping the oldest, so let's go from the oldest to newest. So I have 5 units at 160. Okay. And the problem says that we have 8 remaining. So we have 5, and then we have 4 at 170. So from there, I need 3 more units to come up with that 8 unit count that we have. Okay, and then these are at 170. Okay, and now we can get our total. Okay, and my total is 9,845. So if I use Lifo to value my inventory, my value would be 9,845. If I use Fifo, then my value is going to be 10,700. Okay, so that is Fifo and Lifo. Okay, requirement 3 says determine the cost of the inventory by the weighted average cost method using the columnar headings indicated. Okay, so we're basically going to do the same thing, but now we're going to do it for the weighted average cost. Okay. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit more challenging. We have to do quite a bit of calculations to come up with our unit cost and then be able to multiply it by our ending inventory. Okay, so for the weighted average cost method, we have to get the average by model. Okay, so here we have, and I'm going to have a little piece of paper. So we have 4 at 64, 4 at 70, and 4 at 76. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring those numbers. Sorry about that. We're going to bring those numbers down here. Okay, so we're doing model A10. Okay, okay. For model A10, let's do the calculations. Model A10, we have 4 at 64, 4 at 70, and 4 at 76. Okay, so we have 4 at 70. I'm sorry, it was 4 at 64, I believe. Let me see. So we have 4 at 64, 4 at 70. Okay, so we have 4 at 64, 4 at 70, and 4 at 76. Sorry about that. 76. Okay. So what am I doing is I'm getting the total from all of the columns that we have. 4 at 64, 4 at 70, 4 at 76. Now we're going to get the average of those. Okay. So first we calculate the total cost. It's going to be the quantity times the unit cost. Oh, I deleted the number. Let me undo. So there should be a 4. Okay. So it should be 4 times 64. Okay. Oh my Lord, what's wrong with my mouse? Here we go. So we multiply the quantity times the unit cost. Okay. And then that's going to give me my total. Okay. I'm going to add my total for my quantity and my total cost. Okay. So in this case, I've got $840 that I've spent on 12 units for model number A10. Okay. So to get my weighted average unit cost, I'm going to get my 840 divided by my quantity. That's going to give me a value of $70 per unit. Okay. Now that I have that, I know that I have 6 units remaining of product A10. Okay. We have 6 units remaining. For my unit cost, I'm going to get the cost that we calculated down here of $70. So my total cost would be $420 for model A10. Okay. We're going to do the same thing for the rest of the models. We may need to make sure that we copy the information correctly, that we multiply the correct amounts. Okay. Now here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different transactions. We have 8 at 176, 4 at 158, 3 at 170, and then 6 at 184. So we're going to do the calculation for B15. So I've got 8 at 176. Okay. I've got 4 at 158. Okay, I've got 3 at 170. And I've got 6 at 184. Okay. We're going to get the total cost, multiply the unit cost times the quantity. That would give me those figures right there. And then we're going to get the total. Okay. And our total quantity. Okay. So for B15, I had a cost of $3,654 to purchase 21 units of B15. Okay. So to get the weighted average unit cost, I'm going to get the $3,654 and I'm going to divide it by 21 units. That will give me $174 weighted average cost per unit. Okay, 174. So if we go back, for B15, we have 8 units remaining. Okay, so for B15, we have 8 units remaining, and we calculated the cost, the average cost of 174. Okay, and then we multiply the quantity times the cost. 1392. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for E60. E60, we had 4 periods, 3 at 75, 3 at 65, 15 at 68, and 9 at 70. Okay, we're going to bring those in to G60. Okay, so for G60, for E60, I'm sorry, E60. Okay, let me see, what do we have for E60? We have 3 at 75. Okay, E60. Now for E60, we have 5 units remaining. Remember, and we keep the oldest units. So we have 5 units remaining. Okay. So we have for E60, we have 3 at 75. We have 3 at 65, 15 at 68, and 9 at 70. Okay. Then we multiply the unit cost times the quantity. And you get a number for each of those figures. Okay. Then we go ahead and we get our totals. How many units did we purchase during the year? We purchased 30 units, and the total cost for those 30 units were $2,070. So we're going to divide the $2,070 by the quantity, and that will give me $69 per unit. Okay. Okay. So we have $69 per unit. So now for E60, I know that for E60, I have 5 units remaining. Okay. We have 5 units at the value of $69. And then we multiply it. That'll give me $345. Okay. So we continue doing that for the rest of the models. Okay. For D83, we have 9 units remaining, and remember, we keep the oldest units. So those 9 are composed firstly of those 7 at 242, then 2 at 250. Okay. So let's look at that. Okay. Okay, so we have 7 units at 242. We have 6 units at 250. Okay. We have 5 units at 260. And then we have 10 units at 259. Okay. Once you have that, you can multiply the total cost, quantity times unit cost. Okay. And now let's get a total. Okay, so now we're going to get our weighted average cost per unit. Okay, let's get our total over here. That gives me 7,000. Let me see how much. 7,084 is my total cost for 28 units. Okay, now we're going to get the weighted average cost. So we're going to get the 7,084 divided by 28. And that'll give me $253. Okay, $253. So for every unit, we're going to value it at $253 for G83. Okay. Okay, so G83, we have, how many units do we have in G83? We have 9 units remaining, okay? And those are our oldest units. So that means we have 9 units at $253, okay? So for G83, we have 9 units remaining, G83, okay? 9 unit remaining at a cost of $253, and I got my cost down here. Each of them has a different calculation. You get all of the quantities times the unit cost to get the total cost. Once you've got the total cost, you divide that by the quantity, and that will yield the weighted average cost per unit. Okay. So that is G83, J34. Okay. J34 has 15 inventory amounts. They have a pretty high count compared to the others. So for model G34, okay, G34, I've got 12 units at $240. I've got 10 units at $246. I've got 16 units at $267. So we have 16 at $267, and then we have 16 at $2,700. Okay, so now once we have all of those amounts entered, we get the total. Okay, so we've got the total. We had 54 units of J34. Okay, for a cost of $34.53. So my weighted average unit cost will be my $3,453 divided by my quantity. Unit cost divided by quantity. That will give me $63.95. Okay, let me see. Did I do this right? This is J34. So 12 times 240. Oh, we haven't done the math here. Sorry, we need to get the total cost. That times that will give me that. We multiply all of our amounts. So we have at 270. This one's wrong. Okay. And then we get our total. So all we're doing is we're picking up the quantity and the unit cost to come up with that number right here, your ending inventory. Okay, so for example, for J34, we have 15 units remaining. We have 15 units using the Lifo method. If we use Lifo, we sell the newest and we keep the oldest. Okay, so we needed to figure out what is comprised of those ending inventory units. Okay, so this is not the one. We have to go look for J34. Okay, so now I'm going to get the total cost divided by the quantity, and that's going to give me $258 per unit average cost. Okay, now that I have that, I'm going to bring that over. So that is J34 at $258. Okay, so we have J34. And then the price that we got for J34 is $258 per unit. So for J34, we have 15 units remaining. Okay. And then my cost is $258. Okay. So we're going to have 2,277 for J83, 3,870 for J34. Okay. Then we have 890, model 890. Okay. Let's look at 890. 890 has 5 units remaining, and I know that because we are using LIFO, the last ones in are the first ones out. Okay, so we're going to keep the oldest units. So for M90, we have 5 units remaining. Okay, and we're going to start off with the oldest. Okay, so M90, we have 2 units at 108. We have 2 units at 110. Okay, we have 3 units at 128. And then we got 3 units at 130. And then we multiply to get our total cost. Okay. Once we have that, we're going to get the total cost. Okay, let me see. Equals the sum of, I'm going to add all of my cost. There we go. And then let's look at how much we had in quantity. Okay, so we have 10 units that we paid 1,210. So my weighted average unit cost is the 1210 divided by 10 units. And that's going to give me $121. Okay. Okay, so for M90, my unit cost is $121. So let's look at M90. Okay. So we're doing M90. So for M90, remember M90, we have 5 units remaining. Okay. Okay. So my unit cost is going to be $121. And then you multiply the unit cost times the quantity. That gives me 605. Okay. So for model M90, I have 5 units remaining, valued at 121 for a value or a cost of 605. Okay. Last but not least, we've got Q70. Okay, for Q70, we have 8 units remaining, and we're going to be using this data from the oldest to the newest. Okay. So let's look at Q70. So Q70 had 5 units at 160. Okay. We had 4 units at 170. We had 4 units at 175. Okay. So we have 4 at 175. Then we have 7 at 180. Okay. We're going to add those together. We're going to add our quantity and our total cost. For my total cost, you get your quantity times your unit cost, and that's going to give me $800. Okay. So these are the quantities. We have 20 count, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add my total cost. Your total cost would be $3,440 for 20 units. Okay, let's get the weighted average cost. We just get the total cost divided by the quantity. Okay. And that's going to give me a value of 172. Okay. Let me save my work because it's been kind of long. Okay, so remember, what are we doing here? We're calculating the different inventory methods using FIFO, LIFO, and weighted average. For FIFO, we sell the oldest and we keep the newest. So when you're dealing with FIFO, you're always going to be looking at what was my newest inventory, because that's the inventory I'm keeping. Okay. If you're doing LIFO, then you sell the newest and you keep your oldest. Okay. And then the weighted average cost method is kind of like the best of both worlds. So for Q70, I have 8 units remaining, okay, at a cost of 170, let me see, 172 for Q70. Okay, let me see, 172. Okay, so we're going to get the quantity times the unit cost. That'll give me 1,376. Once you're done, you can add your quantity and your total cost. So then at the end, using the weighted average cost method, we have 56 units, okay, valued at 10,285, okay. That is what we have, okay. And we got all of these by calculating each of the, what do they call them here? Each of the models separately, okay. So you have to calculate the unit cost per model. That is very important, you don't forget, okay. And I've got all of the calculations down here as to how we got the unit cost, the weighted average unit cost per unit. So that way we could calculate the amounts that our inventory will be valued at. Okay. So those are the 3 calculations, and as you can see, FIFO yields the highest inventory price. That is how much we're going to be recording it in our books for, or reflecting it in our books. That we have inventory valued at 10,700. During LIFO, our inventory is going to be valued at 9,845, and using the weighted average cost method, that number yields 10,285. Okay, so that's 1 through 3. Now let's do 4. Okay. Discuss which method, FIFO or LIFO, will be preferred for income tax purposes in periods of rising prices and declining prices. And here they're only asking us to look for income tax purposes for rising prices and declining prices. Okay. So they're asking for income tax purposes. Okay. So we pay our income tax based on what? Based on our income. Okay. So the problem asks, okay, what did it ask? It says, which method would be preferred for income tax purposes in periods of rising prices and declining prices? Okay, so let's start. This is number 4. During periods of rising prices, the Lifo method, the Lifo method will result in a lower cost of inventory, a greater amount of cost of goods sold, and a lesser amount of net income than the other 2 methods. Okay. So Oh, sorry about that. It says for Dymac appliances, the Lifo method will be preferred for the current year because it would result in a lesser amount of income tax. Okay, so during the periods of rising prices, the Lifo method will result in a lower cost of inventory. Let me copy this, copy over here, okay? So it says here, discuss what would happen, what would be preferred for income tax purposes in periods of rising prices. So when our prices rise, okay, the Lifo method will result in a lower cost of inventory, okay? Your inventory would be Lifo method, okay? That will yield you the lowest amount of your inventory, okay? The cost of your inventory and a greater amount of your cost of goods sold. Okay, Lifo would give you a lower amount of your ending inventory and a higher amount of your cost of goods sold than the other two methods. Okay, so therefore Lifo would prefer for the current year. Lifo would be preferred. Let me say this again. Lifo would be preferred for the current year because it will result in a lesser amount of income tax. And I misspelled income tax right here. Income tax. Okay, here we go. So, looking at the diagram, we would discuss, what happens in the prices increase. If the prices increase, this is what happens. Okay, and this is what we're focused on because they're asking us right now, in increasing prices, what would happen? Okay, so during the periods of rising prices, the Lifo method will result in a lower cost for your ending inventory and a higher cost of your cost of goods sold, or your cost of inventory. Okay, so it's very important that we understand. Now, what happens when we have declining prices? Let's look at declining prices. If we have declining prices, okay, during declining prices, okay, the FIFO, oh my god, the keyboard, the FIFO method will result in a lesser amount of net income, okay, and would be preferred for income tax purposes. Okay, so when a prices drop, what's going to happen? During declining prices, the FIFO method will result in a less amount of net income. Remember, taxes are paid on the amount of net income. The more net income, the higher your taxes. So, if we have FIFO, if we have decreasing prices, then for us to report a lower amount of net income, we would have to use or utilize the FIFO method. That will yield us a lower amount of net income. Okay, so if our goal is to pay less income taxes, we want to make sure that our income is lower, or is lower in comparison to the other methods. That way, that will yield the lesser amount of income taxes that we have to pay. So for this case, in periods of decreasing cost, FIFO will yield a lower amount of net income, resulting in less taxes to be paid. Okay. So that is what is happening in this problem. Very long problem. The FIFO and the Lifo are not very complicated. It's just identifying, okay, for FIFO, I keep the newest, which is my third, and then my second. For Lifo, you keep your oldest, which would be your beginning inventory, and your first purchase and second purchase in that order. Okay? So FIFO and Lifo are pretty straightforward. The one that's a little bit more challenging is the weighted average cost method. Okay? Now for the weighted average cost method, we had to calculate the weighted average cost per model, okay, per model. So once we got the model, the average cost per model, then we got that $70, that 174. We can just multiply that number times the units that we had as of December the 31st to come up with our inventory pricing. Okay. So it's very important that when you're transferring information, you're very careful with the numbers. You put an incorrect number, then your calculations are going to be off. Okay. Understand what is it that you're buying, what is it that you're keeping. Okay. Very important that we do that. Take your time when solving these kinds of problems to understand what the question is asking. That way you can be able to, truly understand and capture what is it that we're trying to do here. So, Fifo method, my inventory will be valued at, let's do a little comparison here. Fifo, your inventory will be valued at 10,700. Lifo, your inventory will be valued at 98.45. 98.45, yep. And then the weighted average. Okay. And then for the weighted average, we have 10,285. So as you can see, for all three methods, we have the same amount of ending inventory. It's just how it's being valued, okay? The inventory, this is how much we would report for our inventory. Fifo will yield the largest amount. This is what we will report, 10,700 of inventory. Weighted average gives us a median of the two, whether it be Lifo and Fifo. And then Lifo will give us the lowest valuation amount of our inventory, okay? So it just depends what is it that the business wants to do, what kind of products you're selling. That way you can determine which method is best for you. Okay, so that is it for this problem. Please take it a step at a time. Multiply carefully the quantity times the cost to get the total. And remember, you have to come up for each of those model numbers to these numbers right here. That's your ending inventory. Okay, so that is it for this lecture. Until next time, have a wonderful day.